So my name's Caroline, and my woodworking name is the Artful Woodsmith, and we are from Series 3 of Handmade, Britain's Best Woodworker.
Fantastic.
Yep. So I'm Paula Chandler, and I was with this lovely bunch on Handmade as well.
Okay. My name's Leo, and you can find me on YouTube as Hand I Craft, and I appeared with these fantastic folk on Series 3 of Handmade.
Hello, everybody. My name is Wolfgang. My surname is Schulze-Zachow. Repeat after me. No takers. Okay.
No,
Obviously.
Sorry, no, go on. What was it? Is it
Did you?
Schulze-Zachow.
Schunzet-Taco?
Zachow.
Takao.
Yeah.
Like taco.
Easy
No,
for you
well,
That kind of.
no, it's just a German surname. You know.
I love the Germans. I love the Germans. Right. Okay.
So I'm sort of the legal alien on the show, yeah. Well, over to you.
Hello, I'm Nathaneal.
Woo! We got some fun.
I'm David.
I like that. All right. Okay. What was it like? What was it like being on the show? Was it hard? Was it brilliant? Like, tell us a little bit about it.
It was brilliant, yeah. It was an incredible experience. Not least of all to meet this group. We've all stayed in touch. We've all become very good friends with Series 3 and with the Series 2 and Contestants as well. There they are over there.
Yeah!
Because it's such a unique experience to be able to do something like that. And just as woodworkers, woodworking as a hobby, to go into a situation like that where we're given free rein to make whatever we want, and these are, whatever tools, whatever wood we can get, was a brilliant experience. And then to see ourselves on the telly, to go from that to that was wonderful.
I love that. Are you recognised now out in the street? Are they like, go quick, sign this piece of wood?
What do you mean out in the street? We can't go out any longer. You know?
Aren't they? They're jokers as well.
That's over. That's done.
I love it. Right, I start thinking of some questions, but I'm not finished yet. I want to go to David, isn't it? Yep. How was your experience on the show? What was your highs and lows?
The whole thing was a high, really. Like Caroline said, you're put into a situation like you've never experienced before. There are some incredibly talented people who are there, and others less so. But you're given the same opportunities, and you're given the opportunity to try new things and push yourself out your comfort zone. Unfortunately, there's tons of people following you around with cameras, so every time you make a mistake, which happens quite often, they're caught. But it still doesn't change the fact that you are given a once-in-a-lifetime experience, which is absolutely life-changing.
I love that. You don't think about it, actually, because we just see it, how it looks all polished. But when there are cameras in your face, does it force the errors?
Not so much. They don't force the errors so much, but the problem is... Not from you, but from everyone else.
Mr. Perfect, Mr. Perfect.
I think the thing is, when you make any kind of error, they're always there watching you. I remember on the first episode where the leg fell off my bench. That was a pretty catastrophic moment for me. And I looked up, and there were 6 cameras pointed at me. So it was a pretty big sort of...
And they come in with the, how are you feeling, Nathaniel, about that? You know what I mean? That's
And then in that moment when you're panicking, you're supposed to be cool and make a joke. But the last thing you want to do is make a joke. What you really want to say is say to that cameraman, you stick that thing one more time in my face and I'll punch you.
Yeah, it's a family show.
You can't say that because it's on TV.
The cameras definitely don't make it easy.
I love that. Has anybody got any questions from the audience that watch the show who would like to? Yes?
I was just going to ask, what's the hardest project you had to complete?
What's the hardest project that you had to compete? Anyone? Just specific, or would you like to answer? Hardest project?
They were here for longer, so I think Nathaniel, you should answer it.
I think the hardest one for me, I mean, they were all hard, but the island, the final build, was one of the hardest, just because of the sheer amount of stuff you had to do. It's such a big project that you were there for, we were there working on it for like 12 hours a day, and it took a long time for it to come together, just working so hard on it, and that was definitely one of the more difficult ones for me, I think, physically.
doing the big challenges were a bit of an endurance test, weren't they? You know, it was exhausting. You were up early and you didn't get to bed late, and there was always somebody wanting something from you, whether you had to go and take press photographs. And lots of it was exciting and fun, but it was also exhausting and mentally exhausting because you didn't want to make a mistake. And like you were saying about the cameras being on us all the time, and they actually told us we weren't allowed to swear at the camera people.
Of course.
They
I'm
knew
guessing-
we wanted to.
I'm guessing that happened. That wanted to happen a lot then, swearing. I guess it's just so alien, isn't it? Because normally when you're making whatever it is at home, you don't have someone invading your space.
Well, exactly, yeah. I think woodworking is often a very quiet, something you do on your own or in small groups.
Relaxing,
at least
right?
it's relaxing, yeah. It's not something you do in a big group. It's not something you do in front of a lot of people, so the pressure is there. And as Paula was saying, you know, we got tighter and tighter as the show went on. And so when you're using great big machines and, you know, these power tools, you've got to be able to concentrate, and we were more and more exhausted as it went on, and it did get harder, but still such an amazing experience.
That's amazing. Is there any other more?
If we just go back to your question, I think probably for me, the sculpture week was the hardest one for me. Although it was the smallest size. I'm not particularly the most artistically minded person, so a lot of the furniture I make is kind of functional, so to have that kind of artistic, creative idea, and also was trying some skills out for the first time, you know what I mean, which is probably, it's a difficult thing to do in your own workshop at home, isn't it? It's a slightly more difficult thing to be doing, you know, on a film set, if you like. So, but what I was really wanted to do with that was try and adapt to the way that I work. So we had it on the lathe, and obviously I can't do wood turning for my health and everybody else's safety, you know. So, but I've managed to figure out a way using the random orbit sander to create that kind of the bee effect, which I brought the bee with me today. So that was great to be able to chance to do that. But it was probably my most difficult challenge, I'd say. Okay.
Anyone else want to share on the hardest challenge? Go on.
I would say the hardest one to me was the first episode. And the main reason for that was simply that you are in this tent, which is big, okay, but there's 10 people in there. There is 6 camera crews, 6 lighting crews, 6 microphone crews, the production guys, the runners, so there is loads of people. And the noise is unbelievable. And I was standing there and I realized that I hadn't put enough measurements in my design. So I was trying to figure out on the fly with everybody making unbelievable noise around me. It was driving me crazy.
And
So-
you chose to use so many angles, didn't you?
Yes, yes.
I wouldn't do that. I kept mine square, but with a few curves.
No, I mean, in the end I figured it out, okay? But that was hard. That was hard.
I think the other thing was because we were all bubbled up for COVID. I think everything was so alien, and the people who were there were absolutely gorgeous and did an amazing job of looking after us. But when you've had a really tough day and you made tons of mistakes and stuff, you just want to go and give your kids a hug, or you want to go and sit with your wife for a bit and just chill out. And to not have that made it difficult as well. So we were physically exhausted. The people around us were absolutely beautiful. We were in a gorgeous place, but just to miss home made it difficult too.
On that note, how long were the days, like, in terms of hours were you filming?
The longest day...
About 27 hours a day, I think it was.
Yeah.
They were long days, yeah.
Yeah.
The longest day was about 16 hours from breakfast to dinner time.
And you had to get up early to do your own hair and makeup.
And then what you have to realize is
That as well.
a lot of is actually sort of a little bit of action. Then the production crew said, "Nah, we need to do that again." So you wait for 5 minutes for them to change something with the cameras or the microphones or the lights or whatever it is, and then you do it again. 30 seconds action, 15 minutes waiting. Okay? And a lot of days started out with sort of fire pit talks in the morning and stuff like that. And we were all just keen to get into the tent and get stuff
How many
done.
times did we walk into that workshop?
There was a lot
Yeah.
of walking.
So-
There was a lot of walking.
We used to have to walk in,
Yeah.
go back again, walk in.
I think the best-
Now can we film it with a drone?
I think the best one was the first day of filming. we spent about 3 hours walking up about 200 steps to this big castle, and they didn't use any of it.
Oh, that's annoying. Good for your steps, though.
The thing is, we were all tired after doing 16-hour days. We'd all trudge out of the tent, and then Nathaneal had wheelie past on his mountain bike, like on the way to go and get food.
Is there any more questions, guys? Oh, go on.
When each of the challenges was set, how did you get your ideas from mind to paper?
So we had 4 weeks beforehand, and we were given all of the projects 8 projects that we had to design, and we worked with a designer. We had a good designer that would look over our look over our work and challenge us to push it a little bit further. So we'd already pre-done the designs, and we had to produce the cutting lists for the wood and send all that in beforehand. But to design 8 projects in 4 weeks is a big ask, actually, because, you know, a lot of designing is a thought process. But it was, for me, partly that was the best part of it, because it stopped me from being so rusty, and it reminded me that I was a good designer, because my life went in a different direction from what I planned to do. And so when I got on the show, I was a bit rusty. But, I enjoyed the design process.
Okay, anyone else?
I mean, we had, during the run-up, we had consultation sessions with professional furniture makers, and that actually helped a lot. Out of my 8 designs, there were some where I saw the subject and said, yep, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And there were others, like, for example, the floor light, which I won that episode. But in the beginning, when I was presented with that brief, I said, right. Shit, no idea.
So I've still got projects I want to finish, start and finish.
Yeah. All of our designs were very, very different as well, and we all had a different way of designing. I always remember the time I was sitting with Wolfgang over breakfast, and we were looking through our design sheets, and we said, let's compare designs for the shelf week. And my design was a pencil drawing of 2 trees, and it was a scroll across the page. And I looked at Wolfgang's, and it was just hundreds of angles, precision. I have never seen a bit of technology like it. It was incredible, and I thought, oh God, I'm in trouble here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of design, we were probably polar opposites, because all your designs were very organic. Sort of, this is nature, and I'm going to try and do something without taking away from the natural form, whereas my designs were all based on simple geometric forms.
Very,
combined.
very different.
And I did all my designs in a CAD program.
So we'd look at each other's benches and with blank expressions.
I think the challenge as well, because you only have that really short window of time, you obviously want to create something that's aesthetically pleasing for people to see, that you can impress the judges, but also the time, you had to, in the planning, you had to factor in the time management side of things. You had to. Well, you know, I certainly did, because you think, well, you could come up with the best design in the world, but if it was completely unrealistic to create in that short window,
and it was difficult, because they actually pushed you to go bigger as much as you could do.
Yeah, the design people
and
saying,
we didn't know what we were going to come across when we were in the workshop, which wasn't actually a workshop; it was a film set, really. Yeah, you know, so you didn't know where anything was, so you were just like, ooh.
And you can gain a general idea based on your own workshop, but your own workshop is set up for you and as a maker, isn't it? So although you go, and you know what, the opportunity to work with all the gear, all the Makita, the Festool, the Felder stuff is incredible. But if you're not used to using that manufacturer, it takes a little while. They all have their own little nuances, don't they? So, but you can't, you know.
And you've also got to know
get
where
to see
to
the
find
equipment
it.
before, but you didn't get to try and everything out, you know. So once the clock was on and off you go, you just had to find your way and get on with it. So that's when it creates a difficulty for your design, because you want to produce what you've got there, and you will be challenged if you don't, you know, because that's you saying you're going to make that and you've got to make it. And that's where it becomes a little bit difficult in the design, because say they were pushing you to be the best you could be, but also that time frame made it extremely challenging.
It's very different to watching it to actually doing it, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, 100%.
What about you guys on the end? Did you have a certain technique to get your ideas down, or did you?
So I think designing for me is probably one of the more difficult parts, because the type of work that I do is more, I get inspired by something and then I just make it, rather than being given what I need to make and then making it from that. And I think one of the most difficult part for me was the cut lists, because I normally design what I'm doing based on the wood that I've got, rather than being told this is what I've got to make and then coming up with what materials I need to make it. I think that was definitely one of the more difficult bits for me. But in terms of sort of designing stuff, there's a lot of inspiration from just stuff that you see about. You can take a lot of inspiration from just walking around town, or taking a walk in nature. There's a lot of stuff you can take from that, and I think it's trying to work those into your designs is really, really helpful.
Fantastic.
You were still designing some, though, weren't you, whilst we were there?
Oh, yeah. So
he left his homework till late.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to do as much as I could beforehand, but I know the one that will probably spring to mind is the hanging chair. That probably could have done a bit more designing on that one, but...
And you were actually designing it while you were making it.
Yeah, I had sort of a rough picture of what I wanted it to look like, but I didn't know how I was going to do it until I was there in the workshop. And I think that was quite stressful at the time, but it all worked out in the end.
And David?
I think the other thing is the design briefs were paragraphs rather than sentences. So it'd be like, can you make a bench? Yeah. Can it have bells on it? Yeah. Can it be covered in cheese? Yeah. So it's like you're going through everything and you're ticking everything off to make sure you've included it in the design brief. And then by the end of it, you're looking at it and going, wow, I've got to make that now. But it's like you've ticked every box, but the process of going through the whole design brief thing. So like originally for bench week, there was a stipulation that all of the benches needed to be over 5 foot tall, I think. Which they ended up scrapping because most of us went, like it just kind of changed the way that we design so much. So you got to experiment with yourself as a designer, but also it was in some very kind of specific parameters, which was interesting.
Okay, is there any other questions, guys, that we have? Yes, here we go.
Multi-part question, if possible, please. It's regarding your immunity challenge. How much time did you actually get to do that challenge? I mean, how much time out of the day did it take? And were you told prior to arriving on set that this is what you're going to be doing?
Okay. I think the immunity challenges were pretty much what you see, actually. They were the most genuine part of the show, and in fact I really enjoyed the 2 that I got to do. We were given a brief on the card. We had 5 minutes to read what we were going to design. What was the card? It was something about ourselves. We had to explain ourselves to the judges, and we had 5 minutes to sit and think about what design. And then I think we had an hour and a half, if not 2 hours, but I think it was an hour and a half.
They were between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
It varied from skills challenge to challenge.
I was going to say the second challenge, we were sat outside. Do you remember you had a hat on, Caroline? It was so hot. It was unbelievably sweltering.
The chopsticks one.
Yeah, that was the chopsticks one. And I think that was 2 hours. And it literally was 2 hours.
But we did not know up front. Okay? So except for the very last one in the final, all the other skills challenges, we learned what this was about right there in that moment.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I think you could tell that from the fear in my eyes when they read it. I was like, oh my word. And I still can't look at dice to this day. The dice challenge thing was just, my word.
The only exception to that was the final, because they wanted us to make something that would go along with the main subject, which was the kitchen island. Okay, so it had to be something that worked with the kitchen island, and we were given, I think, half an hour or an hour beforehand to come up with a little design.
So it was slightly different with the dog kennels and the final one, the accessory for the kitchen island. So we found out for the dog kennel before lunch.
Yeah.
So we had then an hour on our lunch break panicking about what we were going to do for this skills challenge after lunch. But that gave us a little bit of time to get some sort of rough ideas. But then with the final, they actually told us as soon as we cut the cameras on the semi-final, they sort of got us over and said, this is your brief for your skills challenge on the final day. And this is what you need to do, and you've got to come back to me tomorrow on your day off with what you're doing, so that you all do different things. And because they didn't want two people making the same thing, and then we did our designs, and then had to build them on the day. And I think we only got a couple of hours for that as well.
Yeah.
They did go to extreme lengths to hide it from us sometimes. So it was the semi-final immunity challenge where it was Nathaneal, Wolfgang, myself and Jen, and they were doing pole lathes, and they didn't want us to see, but we had to go past where they'd set them up, so they blindfolded us and put us into a car and drove us past it. Somebody took a picture and it looked like we'd been kidnapped. We were terrified. Nathaneal had his glasses on the outside of his blindfold. It's one of the best pictures we've got, because they knew that if Nathaneal and Wolfgang saw the pole lathes, they'd get overexcited, which they did, and so they wanted to capture that on film. So they did hide it from us until we were actually there, so they could capture the reactions.
I was excited
and you see
until
the
about
difference.
halfway through when I completely messed it all up.
Yeah, you did mess that up. Yeah.
I think the other thing is we all arrived with excitement, and like Leo said, every single time they then announced what it was, we all went, what? It's like, can you cut an accurate dice? No. And to make it even worse, Caroline was next to me, and every time she got an off cut that wasn't quite accurate, she threw it at me. So when I came to make mine at the end, I was just jabbing everything and then painting little dots on. I got my dice from Nate not so long ago, and I don't think there's one that's even slightly cube-shaped. I've got some really interesting, possibly Dungeons and Dragons style dice, if anybody wants any of them. But
It was possible to make 9 perfect dice from this block of wood. David ended up with 23 dice, all of which were not die-shaped.
But there was one that could only ever roll a 4. So if you ever want to have a bet with anybody, I've got a dice you can use.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions? Yes, here we go.
Hi. Would you consider the challenge, the program, the competition, to be more artistic or more about the craft and engineering of working with wood? And, sort of where would the balance lie, and where would your individual balances lie?
That's really interesting, because I think that watching the program, there's a lot of criticism that sometimes if people on the show have said, I'm not sure how to use this tool, or they've not used something properly. I have seen sort of criticism that you're not a woodworker if you can't use whatever. But we've all got very different styles, and nobody's able to use every kind of tool and do every style of woodwork. So a lot of it, before I went, I was mostly using hand tools. I mostly used a saw and an axe. So when I went there, I had to learn how to use machine tools. But Nathaneal's very good at machine tools, so seeing him on the machines is a real skill. Seeing him and Wolfgang turning, is incredible, but seeing my turning isn't. But I may be able to carve something a lot better. So it was different. People have different skills, and they weren't all necessarily shown off. But what was really interesting is seeing everybody's take on what they had to design. So a 4-poster bed is a 4-poster bed, but everybody put their own design into it, and then you're able to see everyone's personalities come out. So in that side, it's a very artistic part.
In the design brief, when we were given what we had to design, I remember it saying, this isn't just a making, it's a design competition as well. So that's actually what they were telling us. So we had to work at our designs, and then I found difficult is that you didn't know what you were going to get when you were there, as in terms of what tools were going to be available, and things like, I did a little bit of homework because I was quite rusty, and a lot of being able to make things quickly. The Festool domino is very good for making making quick joints.
Everyone loves a domino.
But it still takes a lot of time to get your head round how much you can push tools, you know, to their limits to make them work nicely. So that was it was kind of frustrating just not knowing what it was going to be, what it was going to feel like. Because if you knew what you were going to feel like, it would have been a lot easier.
I think
there was a lot thrown at you in one go.
I think the biggest challenge was actually managing your time. Because all of us would probably say, yes, of course I can build that, you know, but that wasn't the challenge. The challenge was to build that in 3 days and to the best possible standard. So the one quite regularly who managed that challenge the best basically came generally out as the winner. So you have that balance between design and making and craftsmanship, and then doing that to the best possible end, and that was really the challenge. And what you always have to keep in mind, this is, it's a woodworking competition, or on the surface it is, but mostly it's actually an entertainment program. It's the TV show for families. So you know, you at the same time, while doing all of that, you still have to keep it light and funny.
Yeah, and,
to some degree.
Yeah, and as well as the stress of obviously dealing with all the woodworking side of things, you've also got to be able to cope with the cameras on you. You've got to be able to talk to the camera, and that's a whole other side to the, you know, to being on the show that people wouldn't normally think about.
Yeah. And you didn't have time to look at your watch.
No.
So you were just.
I think just to pick up from what Caroline was saying, because if you look at woodworking, it's such an umbrella of different skills, and you know, there's people who are turners, there's sculptors, there's joiners, there's carpenters, there's cabinet makers, and that all comes under woodworking, doesn't it? And people bring different skills to the plate, and I think in terms of referencing design or woodworking, it's, for, as Wolfgang said, it comes under the terms factual entertainment. It's a factual entertainment program, so they're trying to appeal just as much to the layperson as they are someone who's interested in woodworking. So they want to create this perfect model where the woodworker watching it will appreciate the joinery, whereas the layperson would just appreciate the bench for what it is, because they go, oh, I'd like that in my house, or that looks really nice. So there's a balance to be struck between the two. It's not a cop out of an answer, but I just think, as Wolfgang said, the person who got the balance right between the artistic merit of it and because you were just on the joinery stuff as well, generally did quite well in those weeks.
Yeah, I think there'd be part of it as well. If it was just straight woodwork, it'd be, right, you've all got to make this same bench in 2 days. Let's see who does it best and the most accurate. What they encouraged us to do all the way through was try and put our own stamp on it a little bit. So it wasn't enough to just say, yeah, I'm going to make a bench and I'm going to make it to the brief. They then push you to go outside of your personal comfort zone too. So there was so much of that kind of design, and especially as it progressed, and I enjoyed kind of watching it, and as it went, people kind of grew into themselves as designers even more. Like, you could start to watch it and go, oh, I'd get photographs from people about the stuff they make when I go home, and I'd go, oh, that's definitely Nathaneal's, and that's definitely Caroline's, and you could spot the way that they were growing as designers and not just makers.
Coming down. There you go, sir.
What was it that made you sign up for the show?
Oh, good question.
What was it that made me sign up for the show? Was Sarah and Aaron. Actually, what happened for me, it's a good question though, Aaron, to everybody else. I'll finish and everybody else can answer. But it was during lockdown, actually, that somebody sent me a flyer and said apply for it. So I applied for the first show. I don't know if you guys knew this. And I didn't get on, and I was so pleased. I was like, yes, I don't have to go and do this. And then they phoned me up and said, would you like to do series 2? And I said, and I was in the car with Aaron and Sarah at the time, and I said, I'm not going to do it. And Aaron and Sarah said, but Paula, you always tell us if an opportunity comes your way, you've just got to do it.
Yeah, he's filming this as evidence as well, Paula, I can see from here.
It was Sarah and Aaron that made me do it. So Caroline, what made you do it?
I have have always done woodwork, but I tend to keep it very secret. I make things, and I have got an Instagram page now, the Artful Woodsmith, remember that. But I was very shy about showing what I made and showing the styles of things that I made, and then this opportunity came up. They actually contacted me and asked if I wanted to be on the show, and it was a huge step outside my comfort zone, and something that even this is very hard for me. But I would say for anyone who gets the chance to do anything like that, who gets the chance to show what they make and show what they enjoy, show what they love to somebody else, is take it and do it, even if it's cripplingly embarrassing sometimes. Is just do it, because it makes a huge difference. So it was that the chance came up, and I just happened to be in a good mood on that day and feeling confident enough, signed up before I could think too much about it, and it was really worth it.
So sorry, did they?
I'm interviewing now.
Instagram, they messaged you on Instagram, did they, to say come and do it?
Sorry?
Did you say they approached you to go on to?
They did approach me.
That's a flex. No, that's good. Okay, I just wanted to double check that. That was interesting. Okay, sorry, next.
I was a fan of the show. I watched the first series, and a friend of mine, Joe Whittaker, was in it, so it was great to actually, enjoyed watching the programme. Plimsoll got in touch with myself via my YouTube channel and asked would I be not interested in going on it, would I be interested in applying. And I spoke to my partner about it, and she said, go for it, like, do it, you know what I mean? So what I was conscious of, I wasn't sure, and I'll be totally honest about this, because there was a big open dialogue between myself and Plimsoll and Channel 4 as the nature of my disabilities and stuff. Would it be a right fit for them as well as would it be a right fit for me? Because I didn't want to promise them the earth, turn up halfway through the first show, crash, and then not be able to carry on. So I'm extremely grateful to both Plimsoll Productions and to Channel 4 for accommodating me as a disabled person, being able to actually take a full and active part in it. So I was really grateful for that.
In my case, I am a webmaster of a wood turning club, and one day the club got contacted by a lady who needed to use a wood turning workshop to complete her project for her studies in design at the Birmingham University. And that lady turned out to be Chantal from Series 1. And we stayed in touch because I quite liked her, and I really sort of wanted to support her. And one day she phones me and she says, she's just come off the set for a TV program, and the producers asked her whether she knew anybody who would make a good candidate, and could she put my name and telephone number forward. So I said to her, okay, you're not from South Africa, but is Durban on the sea? Yes, Durban is on the sea every day and at night as well. So, and I said to her, this isn't really going to go far, because I've applied for Series 1 and never heard from them. So I don't expect them to call me, because I'm just not the type that they want. And Chantal said to me, leave it with me.
Fantastic. Oh, how did you guys get on?
I watched the first series and I really enjoyed it. It was great fun to watch. And then probably early in the next year, I saw an advert in, I think it was Wood Turning magazine, saying that they were looking for people, just a little column in Wood Turning magazine saying that they were looking for people to be on the next series. And I sort of saw it and thought, I should probably do that. That'd be, that could be good fun. Anyway, I didn't do it. And then about 6 months later, I saw it again, and I was like, I'll put in a thing. And
what do you have to do? Do you have to send them pictures of your work, or?
Yeah, so you had to do a couple of things. I think you had to fill out a form, like loads of different information. You had to put photos of stuff that projects that you'd done, and you had to film a 1-minute video of yourself, a project that you were currently working on, and then a tour of your workshop. Or that's at least what I had to do.
They sent you a piece of wood in the post, and you had to set up a live stream in your workshop. And then once the wood had arrived, they set it up and said, right, you've got an hour and a half to, in our case, build a bird box. Off you go. And then they watched you in your own workshop. for the challenge.
No way.
Was it an hour and a half,
You
2 hours?
had 2.5 hours.
That was what it was.
And you had
Felt like an hour and a half.
I did the audition twice. So I got 2 bird boxes. And in fact,
That's quite intense.
there's blue
Yeah.
tits nesting in the second bird box now.
So they'd be watching you in your workshop, and then they'd pop in every now and then, parachute in, ask you some questions about what you're doing, and the design people would pop in and ask you, and then at the end, he'd kind of interview you a little bit. And that was just to get to the second stage, was it?
Was
the
that
second
a
stage?
private stream only for the producers to watch, or could other people just pop in and out? as
No,
well?
that was just for the producers.
It was almost okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think
that was stage 2, I think, wasn't it?
there was
that was
a
stage
few
3.
different stages. So you had the first bit was sort of where you put in your application, and then you went through like loads of Zoom calls and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it got narrowed down to, I think afterwards we found out it was the final 30 people, and they all got sent a piece of wood, the same piece of wood to do the bird box with. And then from there that got narrowed down to 10 people with 2 reserve people. That would, pick to be on the show.
That's right.
And it was quite frustrating because we all wanted to see each other's bird boxes, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
we
'Cause
only saw them all
You did it in
afterwards.
isolation, and you didn't know what everybody else was doing.
That was interesting.
Have you seen each other's bird boxes now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, theirs
Yeah.
were all rubbish.
Who's got the best one? Oh, I love it.
Yeah, we all voted.
Nathaneal's-
It wasn't Caroline's. We all voted.
And Nathaniel stood out because he turned it. You had this specific length of wood, and you weren't allowed to use any more than this wood.
Yes,
And you,
so it was a thin piece of wood, but I wanted to try and get a bit of turning into it. So I cut staves out of my piece of wood into like a barrel shape, and I had just enough time for the glue to dry, and I turned it and made a cylindrical bird box in 2 hours.
Yeah, it was
pretty
pretty
difficult, but it was
impressive.
good fun.
Nice.
Yeah, all right, his was the best.
I think the other thing as well, when we all looked at the pictures of each other's bird box, I think it was Caroline who said they actually all look a bit like us. So mine was pink and sparkly, obviously. But you could tell by looking at them after we'd spent that bit of time together, the way that everybody's brain worked and how everybody designed things.
I like that. Yeah, so almost a bit of a test at the end, just to show you a picture and say who did what, because you knew each other so much throughout the show. No, I love that. That's it. How did you audition? How did you find it?
Same kind of thing. I'd watched the first series during lockdown. I was approaching a big birthday, 21, obviously. And so I was a little bit like, well, what's the worst that can happen? And then, just like the guys said, it's like, so you submit a video and some photos, and then you hear nothing back, and then a few months later you get an email, and you're like, oh God, yeah, that. And
forget
then,
about it, yeah.
and then you would do a face-to-face interview with someone over Zoom, and then it goes on and it goes on, and like at every single stage, I kept saying to my wife, well, I should drop out at this point, but maybe just another bit more, and we'll see what happens. And I think there's probably like at least 4 or 5 stages in total
I
to
didn't
get
really.
to where we got to.
I was just trying to find out about it and realised I was on an interview process that I hadn't really banked on going on.
It was
I
like
think-
being on a really weird version of The Apprentice, just like a different thing just cropping up.
I like that. That's a good analogy. Right. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Before I start asking some of mine. Oh.
Since completing the show, what projects have you gone on to? Like, what are you doing now?
That's a good question. That's kind of what leads me on to my next question. So, what projects have you been working on, or what you're up to right now?
So I carry on with the very natural wood theme that I've been working on, and I spend a lot of time in my woodland in Northumberland. So I kind of hold groups there where I teach a little bit of green woodworking, and I also make some things to sell. I make some commissions as well. So yeah, it's slow going. It's not full time, but I do as much as I can because it makes me happy.
Oh, that's good.
So I've just finished our converting Sarah's old car, which is an old Caravel. It's not that old. It's quite nice. Took all the seats out and I've converted it into being a camper. And so my next project is to make a little kitchen to go within that. In between, there's loads of projects on our house, and I quite like gardening and skiing. So, but there's loads of projects, and there's never enough time to do as much as you want to do. I recently made a small little dovetailed box, which reminded me how much I love doing dovetails again. So it's always an ongoing, not enough time in the day.
Busy mind all the time.
Yeah,
being
all the time creative.
Right, I've recently made the leap of faith, so I am now, this is my job, if you like. So I've moved to be, I was a secondary school teacher for 25 years, even prior to accident and stuff, but now I am just divide my time between making and content creating, really. So I make small physical items to sell, like at market stalls, that kind of stuff. I take bespoke commissions for larger stuff like tables, chairs, benches, that kind of thing. And also recording that journey along the way for my social media, for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook stuff. Thank you.
A couple of months after the filming ended, I was made redundant from my normal day job. So I am now doing wood turning full time. Most of my income comes from making big wooden clubs for swinging in health, the gyms. But I also make furniture pieces, table legs, sofa legs, stools. I make kits for table lamps, whatever people want done. I do furniture repairs, all sorts of things. And if you want to see what I've been up to on the artistic side, go out to Instagram and search for FuzzyTurns. And that's me.
Fantastic.
So similarly to Leo, I recently left my job. I had a part-time job to pursue woodworking full-time, and it's quite a big jump to make, but as I'm sure Leo will tell you, it's quite exciting, and to be able to choose your own hours and do what you want, and if you want a lazy morning, you can just get out of bed at 12 o'clock and nip to the workshop for half an hour and then go back to bed.
You can do that occasionally, but not every day. Okay?
Well, no, not every day, but...
And what project are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment, I've not really got anything massive in the works. I've got a few sculptures that that I'd like to...
Was it last year you had that amazing sculpture piece down in London?
So I had one of my pieces at the end of last year was in the Wood Turning Connect exhibition, and it won the Victoria and Albert Choice Award from the Victoria and Albert Museum.
Wow!
Yeah.
Round of applause.
It was absolutely amazing. It was beautiful.
So that was a massive achievement, and that was really exciting. And I think that's sort of what I want to do more of going forward, is do more sculptural and artistic pieces. But like I was saying earlier, it doesn't, for me, I can't just find something I want to make, design it, and then make it. You just sort of, the inspiration comes to you, and then you just think, oh, I'll go and make that.
David?
I'm a full-time primary school teacher, and I love my job, so pretty much concentrating on that. I keep accidentally making things for people because they keep contacting me and asking. Because I think the thing is, and I think we'll probably all say a really similar thing, what the show has done for us is make us go, do you know what, why not? Like, why can't I make that thing? Why can't I do that thing to help that person? Why can't I build that thing to make that person's home that little bit more homely? So as much as I kind of try and not always concentrate on woodwork, I'm always making something for somebody who's got in contact, because I have that feeling now of, well, why not? Like, everybody can do it. Just maybe takes a little bit more time, but we all definitely can.
Yeah, no, I like that. Why not? So my question is, after you finished the show, did you have any strange or weird or wonderful brand requests? Because a lot of brands like to sort of jump on the latest reality show. So did you guys only have any requests where a brand came up to you and said, can you make this for us for an advert? And it was good money? Have you done any jobs going on after it?
I wish that was true. I wish lots of people had asked us. I know that Claire, who's not here, has had several requests for BLT coffee tables. She made this incredible, everyone will remember that as being the standout piece of the show, an incredible BLT coffee table, and she's had a few requests to make different food items into coffee tables.
Okay. No one sliding into anyone's DMs then?
No, I've had lots of friends who now know that I can do woodwork.
Yeah.
It's out of the bag. And so they say, can you do this? And my immediate answer is no. I got too much to do. But, that was quite interesting. Lots of people who know me didn't know me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So that's been quite interesting. They see me, as opposed to just seeing me as a carer, they now actually see that I gave
have a
up my
skill.
career.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I'm still quite talented at doing woodwork. So
Fantastic. What about you guys? Anyone?
Product endorsements, the weird and wonderful. It's a family show, so someone won't go down. But I've had anything anything from moisture meters to makeup. I got a offer for a makeup once, which I didn't know quite how to take that. You know what I mean? It was like
take the money.
I've taken on a few kind of collaboration sponsors with my channel, but I'm very much selective in what want to choose the right thing.
That's good. It's good to be selective.
I think so, because you don't want to be seen to be kind of like selling out to that kind of stuff, because you've built up an audience and that's built on trust, over a period of time. And you think if you just start promoting any single thing just for the hell of it, or for a quick pound, if you like, it's just not worth it. But in the long term, I just don't think that kind of thing's sustainable. So there's a couple of companies who I work with, and they've been great with me.
That's good. Okay, Wolfgang, what about you?
I've had the benefits, the long-term benefits that I had out of this are so close to zero that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Maybe they're coming. When you get home this evening, maybe.
It doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't actually matter, because the reality is I've had most of my customers before. I've picked up some more customers, but they are not related to the TV program at all. So I've got several tons of wood in my garage, and I've got more work than I can cope with.
Well, there you go.
I don't need more fame or fortune. I'm pretty happy where I am.
That's very nice. That's a good place to be.
Weirdly, someone messaged me and said, I'm after 23 dice, but none of them can be cube-shaped. And I was like, do you know what?
I don't think I've not really had any weird ones, which is quite nice. I've had a couple of commissions come from the show, but I think it's going to help more long-term, because if people sort of see me further down the line, they won't know me as, this is this person who did this. They'll know, is that the guy that was on that show however many years ago?
Yeah.
Which is, is probably going to help further down the line.
Is there any more questions from the crowd? I'll come down, get my steps up today. He looks friendly. Right.
Did you have any judges' decisions during the show regarding elimination immunity or the winner that you particularly disagreed with, or would you say that the judges were very fair in their decisions overall?
I think I should have won. And
I think she's totally wrong.
Yeah, I think
I should have won. No, if I answer that, I actually was very fed up with the decision that I had to go. I think I went far too soon, and that's not actually saying that I wanted anybody else to go. And I actually think it's really, I found it quite tough mentally, to be fair, afterwards, because you get into this situation, and I'd escaped from my home life, and I was enjoying it really, although I was hating it as well. It was very much a love-hate sort of thing. And no, I didn't agree with the judges' decisions. And I also know that Series 2, they were quite upset with some of the decisions that were made about who was leaving at that time. Not necessarily who the winner became, and for me it was because they changed the brief, or they allowed different things to go on in the brief. So I got kicked out on making the lamps, and they said that you had to have a flex